Welcome back, y'all. Thanks for joining me. As this channel has kind of developed and evolved into whatever it is it's evolving into, I keep kind of going back and forth on what I want to talk about or how I want to format these things. And the way that they seem to flow best is when I just allow them to be a conversation. So let's have a conversation. Tonight I want to talk about love. And that's a really touchy subject, right? For all of us. Like in some way, shape, or form, love at some point has been a really painful thing and a really beautiful thing at the same time. Sometimes in the same moment. Or sometimes we don't see the beauty in it until after the pain, or vice versa. But love is a really beautiful thing in of itself. And I don't just mean when we say that we love somebody intimately and close to us. Love can be a really beautiful thing for ourselves. And that's really at the root of when we can thrive and be ourselves is when we love ourselves. And I want to start by talking about that, loving ourselves. This was a sore spot for me for a long time, a really long time. And when I say it was a sore spot, it was something that I didn't know how to do, was to love myself. And that's a really tricky spot to find yourself in, because when you don't love yourself, you find yourself dealing in a lot of value and worth issues with yourself. So then people who can genuinely and do genuinely love you for exactly who you are come along. Well, you can't accept it. You want to. You really want to. But you can't. And it creates all these pitfalls for you. You inadvertently set yourself up for failure in a relationship, an intimate one, a friendship, even with family relationships, when somebody is really trying to give you and show you unconditional love, a true form of love, when you don't love yourself and you find yourself deficient and you tell yourself that you're not worthy of that love, you sabotage it. And you don't think it's intentional at first. And you may never actually realize that that self-sabotage is your own issue coming out of whether or not you believe you're worthy of that love. And you may realize later on that you've really hurt yourself even more in that situation than you realized. I personally dealt in a situation that I met somebody that cared about me very much. And I didn't have a lot of value for myself at that time. I was in a very dark place in my life. And because I didn't have a lot of value with myself, and I didn't see my worth for myself, it was hard for me to accept the love that this person brought into my life. And as a result, I sabotaged a situation that was very meaningful to me, and I hurt somebody deeply, very deeply, as somebody that I felt very deeply for. So when I say we don't necessarily realize the damage we do for ourselves in those situations, I hurt somebody in a capacity that I would have never intended to. And for lack of a better term, I broke their heart. And then I broke my own through that. And at the root of that for me in my situation was that I didn't believe I was worthy of what this person was bringing to the table. I thought that it would be something that ended in abandonment, something that was wrought with manipulation, something that was dishonest, a means of somebody getting something from me that they wanted and needed, and they didn't care about. my needs or my wants or how that impacted me. Those are all self afflicted, self saboteur situations that we create when we don't love ourselves. And that can be something that is a big struggle for us to get through. It's difficult because it comes along with having to sit with ourselves in a lot of past traumas, past triggers, past ways of thinking that we may think are a reality for us. But really, all those things are something that was left with us that maybe somebody else created, maybe something we participated in, and for some reason it stuck with us, whether we believe that our value really comes from it or not. But then we get so comfortable in those little slivers of time being something that we consider the fabric of our character, of who we are, that we just embody them. They become our way of thinking about ourselves, that we are deficient, or we're not deserving of love, or we're not lovable. And the fact of the matter is that none of that is real. We can be loved by anybody just as much as we love ourselves. But it does involve having to sit with those things. And it does involve having to remove these ideas of ourselves that other people have implanted there. Again, we never wanted to keep those, but they are there. But as we work through those in a healing journey, so to speak, however you want to phrase that, but as we work through those and we start to value ourselves, and we start to see our worth, and we start to love ourselves, we start to open up a pathway to something really great. Because through that healing, through that love we create for ourselves, we start to remove a lot of necessity that we have for external validation. A lot of necessity gets removed for us to have to give love to people in a capacity where we're telling ourselves, if I do this for this person, they will love me in the way that I want to be loved, or that I feel I need to be loved. That is a pitfall. That is not love. That is transactional. We may care about that person, but that's us trying to love ourselves. We're trying to get somebody else to do it for us by giving ourselves to them. And you don't have to do that to love yourself. You don't have to give yourself to somebody else in a capacity that you can give to yourself. You can be forgiving to yourself. You can be inspiring to yourself. You can be nice to yourself. Those are all forms of love for yourself. You can be your own biggest supporter. Maybe that doesn't seem like all that big of a deal to say some of those things. But for some of us, and in my experience, as I was younger, those were big things. Those were significant moments that I struggled with because, well, if I wasn't doing those things for me, why would somebody else? And that was the thought that would go through my mind. And when you're thinking like that, when you're living in that perspective, when you're projecting that out into the world because you're saying that you're not of value or that you don't love yourself on this level, that perception of yourself becomes what you project of yourself, which I've talked about before. Our perception is our projection. But when we perceive ourselves that way, that's the us we project out into the world. And when we project a person, an identity that's not loving itself, we attract people that will not love that self, but we also attract people that won't love us in the capacity that we need, because we can't attract those people. We can't attract people that love us the way we love ourselves and have it be a positive thing. Occasionally, you may meet someone that connects with you on a level that very deeply cares about you, and they do love you. And this becomes a conflict. Maybe you consider it a twin flame. Maybe you consider it a false twin flame. And I won't get too far into any of those things. I am by no means an expert on those. I have done quite a bit of reading for my own personal reasons. But especially like in a case of a false twin flame. A false twin flame is somebody that you connect with immensely. And over time, it gets chaotic. Why does it get chaotic? Well, because you're mirroring each other's wounds. Where they felt like someone that you connected with on a soul level initially, all of a sudden, the connection's crumbling. Why? Well, because you're mirroring each other's wounds. If you have abandonment issues, you're mirroring those within each other. And even without putting a label on it of a false twin flame, in a relationship dynamic, two people who have abandonment wounds are going to attract each other. And you will repeat that cycle over and over again until you can love yourself enough to heal those things and let them go. To give yourself, see yourself, and acknowledge your own value, your own worth, your own ability. And then love that person unconditionally. Love yourself unconditionally so that you can forgive yourself for your past mistakes. Love yourself unconditionally so that you can be compassionate about emotions of fear and anxiety, and then work through them and release them. Unconditional love starts within ourselves. And when we can love ourselves unconditionally, we become happy. We become love. We become joy and light. And then we give that away. We give it away just naturally. It emanates from us. It becomes our aura. If you want to talk in auras, that's when you love yourself unconditionally. You give that away without even noticing it. And then it attracts people that do the same thing. Then it connects you with people who love you in the capacity that you've always wanted to be loved. But now you don't want it because you have it, because you've been giving it to yourself. That's the paradox of it, right? You've wanted love in a capacity that no one's given you before, so you give it to yourself. And then you attract somebody that loves you in a manner that you didn't think was possible. So you would learn to give it to yourself. And not selfishly. Not because you think no one in the world can do this. You do it because you realize that by being that love, you create that love, you put that love out into the world, and then it attracts that love. I won't get too far into it as far as the energy and the vibration that we are, because we are all matter. We are all atoms moving so quickly that we seem solid, but we're just energy. So when we live in that energy of love, sure, we're still a solid creature, but we're love. So that is the beacon we become. I hope that if today you struggled to love yourself, I hope you take tomorrow for exactly what it is. A fresh start, a new day. To love yourself. Even just a little bit more than you did the day before. Because that little bit, that tiny little sliver more that you give yourself of love tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that, that builds into something beautiful. take it from me, even though you don't know me personally. 2 years ago, I was a very unhappy person. And it emanated from me in everything I did. But I didn't love myself. I couldn't love myself because I was so busy focusing on why I didn't deserve it, why I wasn't worthy of it, or why I didn't hold enough value for it. And when I changed my perspective on realizing that the only person telling me that story was me, and that I could change that, and that I could accept that love from myself, and then grant that out into the world to people that I cared about, and even people I don't know, it becomes this unbreakable thing. And you don't have to work at it every day at that point. You just have to accept it for who you are, which is this beautiful, loving, spiritual creature in a solid meat suit, because that's all we are. So if you did struggle today to love yourself, I hope you love yourself a little bit more tomorrow. And then just keep doing that. Keep doing it, because it only gets better. You only get happier. The people around you that you care about only get happier. And then the new people that come into your life, you get to bring something really incredible to them. And they get to be a part of something really incredible. And it just might change their lives. It just might make something really beautiful for somebody in a time that they needed it or didn't even expect it. I know it's difficult some days. Some days it's difficult to love ourselves because we let a lot of things slip away and get in the way. But if you love yourself a little bit more tomorrow and a little bit more the day after that, you set something in motion that becomes this like infinitely beautiful thing. And then it just keeps growing. And it affects the world around you in a beautiful way that you may not see right now. And you may not even notice when it starts to happen. But the world around you shifts. And it's a great thing. Everybody around us deserves that. The people that rely upon us deserve that. And we deserve that. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for sitting in on a candid conversation with me, because, well, I didn't want to have to try and stumble through some premeditated thing. These come off a lot easier when I can just sit down and talk to you guys. So anybody that watched this, I appreciate it. Thanks for joining me. If you haven't already, liked this video and subscribe to the channel so you can keep up with these. This is me being me with you. I hope you come back for more. Thanks for watching. Have a good night, y'all.